Go on then. Oh, a couple of feet short. Right, so in today's lesson, what we're going to be talking about is what clubs should you be chipping with. Now, one of my lessons recently was we were out on the chipping green, and he's only been on the golf course a couple of times, and I got to talking through his experience of chipping and what would you use as a system when you're chipping, Wes? Would you have a club that you generally use? Would you know that that club flies a certain percentage and runs a certain percentage? And it was almost like a blank canvas. It was not really. I just get my pitching wedge out because that's the one you chip with, isn't it? And I just try and chip it to the hole. So it was very much just like a very blank, no real pointers or an understanding of how different clubs are going to fly and how we can use one club as well to make it do different things. So in this lesson we're going to talk through a little bit of a basic way with 3 clubs that you can use to get a little bit of a metric for yourself so you know how far one will fly and run. And then we're also going to go through a little bit of whether you should have maybe just one club you chip with and you become very confident with this club every time you pull it out of your bag. You love chipping with it. You can hit it high, you can hit it low, you can hit it medium, you can make it spin, you can make it run. We're going to go through all that. So first things first, I find myself here. I've got 23 paces up to that flag there. There is 10 paces of fringe grass here that's pretty nice. The ground's a little bit wet today after all the beautiful weather we've been having here in England, so putting through here is probably going to be a little bit of an issue. I would probably see that it'd be very unpredictable, and I'm not sure of how the pace would go when I'm putting through it, so I probably want to start to chip it. Now the clubs I've selected for this video are an 8-iron, a pitching wedge and my lob wedge, and I've got three sort of flight and carry distances here. So with my 8-iron, whenever I play my standard chip and run shot, if I was out here and I knew that the ground was pretty good, even if this was pretty much all green, and I just thought, oh well, there's a little bit of rough I need to get over initially, so I need a little bit of flight, I would go for probably an 8-iron sometimes. And what I'd look at is that this club flies 30% of the way, and then it runs the next 70% of the way. So I'd look at my my chip, I'd break it down into percentages, sort of blocks of 10, go to the third one along depending on whether the ground was firm, whether there was an upslope or downslope. Obviously if I've played a few holes already, I'll know how quick the greens are rolling, so it all depends on feel as well. But I'd look somewhere to land it about 30% out of the way and let it run 70% of the way. So let's just give that a quick go. So with this, if you've not seen any of my other chipping instruction as well, there is a link up in the screen there you'll see for some standard chipping stuff in terms of setup. But with this I'd be playing it a little bit more like a putter, so I'd see the shaft a little bit more upright, the ball in the middle of my stance, 70% of my weight to the front, and I'd be making a pretty small stroke with no real leverage in it. It's going to be a 1 lever swing. I'm not cocking my wrists too much, and I'm going to look to land it about 30% out, so maybe about 2 or 3 feet short of the front of the green. Done that, it's tracking up, just a little bit bold there. That's actually gone a hell of a way past, that's gone out really well, so probably didn't need to even land it that far. They're running a little bit quicker than I actually expected there. So that would be my standard chip and run shot with an 8-iron. So that would be 30% flight, 70% run, or in that case about 20% flight, 100% run. Very, very strange. Then I'd go on to my pitching wedge. So if I wanted to flight it a little bit more, as I see there, because I'm pretty close as well, sometimes you won't have the opportunity to have that flight and run time, so I might need to get it up in the air a little bit more for it to then land, take a bit of spin, and then just release softly out towards the flag. So when I get my pitching wedge out, I look at this being a 50-50 shot. So it's going to fly 50% of the way, and then it's going to run 50% of the way. And the good thing with this, when I go back to Wes, he was always trying to land the golf ball at the hole, wasn't taking into account any sort of run, literally thought a chip would go up and stop every single time. Wouldn't have any forward motion really when it landed, maybe 1 foot, 2 foot, but wasn't really accounting for any roll. So by using this system, what you're able to do is look at it, break it down into parts, and then account for flight and run. So like I say, with this one, pitching wedge, pretty much the same setup. I'm now going to play it 50% of the way and hopefully see that it lands and runs another 50%. So about 3 or 4 feet onto the green. There we go. Rolls up nicely and it's pin high, just pulled it ever so slightly. So that there was a good shot for this situation. Then we go on to the final one. We've got the lob wedge. For me, a 58 degree, it might be a 60 for you, it might be 56, whatever your most lofted club is in the bag. So on this one here, basically we're going to flip the first one on its head. What we would see is that now this is going to fly 70% of the way and then run 30% of the way. So here again, I would pick my spot, take my normal address and think, right, okay, well, where's 70% of this chip shot? I can see my place. I want to land it about 6 feet short of the flag and then let it run up from there. So I pick my spot I want to land it on, pull the trigger, didn't quite get it, and it's just pulled up a little bit short. So that then becomes one of the problems with this sort of shot, because I've got quite a long way to get to that flag. If I don't quite just catch it, I mean, as you watch that shot go out, it got up in the air, it looked nice, it wasn't a duff or anything, it was the slightly bit heavy, so it's now pulled up about where I ideally wanted to land it. I landed it probably 3 feet short of where I wanted to land the golf ball, and it's just pulled up a little bit quickly. So when you're chipping, you can use that system to then pick the appropriate shot for the situation you face. But like I said at the start of the video, it might be that you become very confident with one club. So for me, I love chipping with my 58. I went through a spell where I'd just use that metric where if I was X amount of yards away or X amount of feet, I'd chip and run. If I was close, I'd 50-50. If I needed a lob, I would lob it. And it was okay. I sort of saw my chipping be a little bit streaky, if anything. And then when I thought back to, well, when I was playing all the time and I was an amateur and chipping really well, I remember I had this Titleist Vokey wedge that I absolutely loved. It was 58 degrees, 8 degrees of bounce. I can still remember it now. And it was literally, as soon as I could get it out of the bag to hit a shot with it, I couldn't wait. I'd pull it out, whether it was from 30 yards, 5 yards, 50 yards, whatever I could do with this 58, I couldn't wait to hit this club. So another way of chipping, once we get here, because I think chipping is probably for me the most exciting, most entertaining and imaginative part of the game. We can do so much, and a great example of that, someone like Shane Lowry. If you watched him win the Open this year, and the way he used just that one wedge to hit so many different shots around the Open was amazing. He had it running, he had his lob wedge going high, running it in low, even hitting little draws with it, and it was so creative to see. And that's what I like to do here. So as we saw there from that last shot, I went down the route of just playing it as a lob wedge that goes 70 and then would run 30. But what I can do is actually play it a little bit more back in my stance, get the ball towards my back foot, lean the shaft forwards and hold the shaft lean going through impact a little bit more, and see that it starts to come out a little bit lower. So I'm almost playing it a bit like my pitching wedge, and because as soon as I get this 58 out now, I think, oh yeah, and because I know it's probably not one to try and fly it all the way, I'd now adopt this more running style shot and try and be a bit more creative with it. And see there, pulls up, spins just a little bit long, but a lot better contact. I've not duffed it, and it's just run on ever so slightly. I could play it a little bit different. I could go real high. I could play it a bit more medium with a little less shaft lean on it, and see that it would go a little bit further, a bit more like that one, spins up and then runs out. So you can pick a club and you can do the same metric in terms of land it 30, let it run 70, land it 50, let it run 50 and land it 70. All with one club, just by adopting where we actually put the ball in our stance. So if we wanted to say, let's say you either use your 58 or your 54 for all these shots. If you want it to go really low and runny, we'd put it back in our stance. If we want to have half flight, half run, we put it more in the middle. And if I want to see that I get it going up higher, I put it more towards the front of my stance. And notice as I move my body, the shaft lean changes with this. So as I'm putting the ball in different places of my stance, what I'm then doing is changing the loft of my club. So with this one club, I can become very, very versatile and see that I can play a number of different shots. So if you are someone who is struggling, I'd try and adopt the first system first for me. Ooh, caught that one heavy, that was pretty poor. I'd try and adopt that first system, or at least understand how you can use a few different clubs and use that metric to see a few different shots being played. Then if you're someone who thinks, well, do you know what, I really like pitching with my sand wedge, I like chipping with it, I like pitching with it, I'm going to try those different shots there. Give both a go, see which you're more successful with. See if there is always one club that you pull out of the bag and you feel confident with it, or you're not that quite there yet, so you might just go to the other one and think, well, I know my 8-iron, if I'm a bit further away, I'll chip and run. Or I might get on my pitching wedge and it goes 50-50. As long as you've now got an understanding of how much they're going to fly, and how much they're going to run, you can actually start to become a better chipper and choose the shot that's appropriate for the situation you're in. What I would say is that you're always going to try and land it on the green pretty quickly and get it running out. If we can do that and give yourself some chance of actually controlling it, not having to throw it as far and let it run out, you should see that you're hitting better chip shots from there. So what club should you chip with? The answer's up to you guys. You can use that system, you can use one club and get real confident with that, but as long as you find a way, like I say, golf it has to be done in this regimented format, very much like the golf swing. We can find different ways to swing. If we can try and do a few different and repeatable actions, we're going to be better. So find something that works for you in this video with your chipping, and hopefully you should see that you are going to become a better chipper.